I never imagined that 18 years of marriage could unravel in the time it takes to sign for a flower delivery. But life has a way of blindsiding you when you least expect it, and sometimes the smallest mistakes reveal the biggest betrayals. My name is Mike Castellano, and this is the story of how my world came crashing down on a Tuesday afternoon in June, and how I rebuilt it stronger than ever before. The alarm buzzed at 6:15 a.m., same as it had every weekday for the past 8 years. Sarah was already in the shower. She'd been getting up earlier lately, something about wanting to optimize her morning routine. I padded downstairs in my pajamas, started the coffee maker, and checked the weather on my phone. Another scorching Texas day ahead, temperature climbing toward 95 degrees before noon. Our house in Frisco was everything we'd dreamed of when we first toured it 5 years ago. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a kitchen island big enough for the whole family to gather around, and a backyard where Jake could practice his batting. The mortgage was steep, nearly $4,000 a month. But between my engineering manager salary and Sarah's marketing director position, we could handle it comfortably. "Morning, Dad." Amanda shuffled into the kitchen, already dressed for summer school. At 16, she was becoming more independent every day, getting her driver's license next month and talking about college applications. Sometimes I couldn't believe how fast she was growing up. "Morning, sweetheart. You want eggs?" "Just toast. I'm meeting Jessica early to study for our chemistry final." I buttered her toast and poured orange juice while she scrolled through her phone. These quiet morning moments had become precious to me. Soon enough, she'd be off to college, and Jake wouldn't be far behind. "Where's Mom?" Amanda asked, accepting the plate. "Shower. She's got that big product launch meeting today." Sarah worked for Biopharma Solutions, one of the major pharmaceutical companies with regional offices in Dallas. She'd been there for 12 years, working her way up from associate marketing coordinator to director of product marketing. The job demanded long hours, especially during launch periods, but the salary was solid and she genuinely enjoyed the work. "She's been working crazy hours lately," Amanda observed, crunching her toast. "New product launches are always intense. Remember when she was working on the diabetes medication campaign? Same thing." Jake stumbled in next, his hair sticking up in 3 directions despite my repeated lectures about combing it before breakfast. At 13, he was all elbows and knees, growing so fast that we'd bought him new jeans twice this spring. "Dad, can you drive me to practice tonight? Mom said she might be late again." "Of course. 7 o'clock, right?" "Yeah. Coach says we might make the championship if we keep playing like this." I smiled, remembering my own Little League days. My father never made it to a single game. He was always working double shifts at the steel plant, trying to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. I'd promised myself that my kids would never wonder if their father cared about their achievements. Sarah came downstairs in a navy blue business suit, her hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked polished and confident, the same way she'd looked when I first met her at a company mixer 20 years ago. She was working for a smaller pharmaceutical firm then, and I was a junior engineer at Lockheed Martin, both of us young and ambitious and ready to take on the world. "Good morning, family," she said, kissing the top of Jake's head and squeezing Amanda's shoulder. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek, her perfume familiar and comforting. "Big day today?" I asked, handing her a travel mug of coffee. "Huge. We're presenting the launch strategy for the new hypertension medication to the executive committee. If they approve it, we'll have the biggest product launch in company history." "That's fantastic. You've been working toward this for months." "Years, really. This could be the promotion I've been waiting for. She glanced at her watch. I should go. Traffic's gonna be murder. She kissed Amanda and Jake goodbye, then turned to me. I'll probably be late tonight. The presentation is at 2, but we'll need to debrief afterward. And Trevor wants to review the competitive analysis one more time. Trevor Nash. I'd been hearing that name a lot lately. Sarah's new colleague, hired 3 months ago to cover the Texas region for pharmaceutical sales. According to Sarah, he was brilliant, innovative strategies, strong client relationships, a real asset to the team. She mentioned him frequently enough that I'd started to wonder if she had a small crush on him. The kind of innocent workplace admiration that sometimes develops between colleagues. It didn't worry me. Sarah and I had been married 18 years. We'd weathered worse storms than a handsome coworker. Tell Trevor I said good luck with the presentation, I said. I will. Love you. She grabbed her briefcase and headed for the garage. After she left, I finished my coffee and went upstairs to shower and dress. I had a big day ahead, too. We were testing new satellite communication protocols, and I needed to be sharp. As the senior engineering manager for aerospace communications at Raytheon, I was responsible for making sure our military contracts stayed on schedule and under budget. It was challenging work, but I enjoyed the problem-solving aspects and the knowledge that our systems helped keep soldiers safe overseas. The kids left for school while I was getting dressed. Amanda drove herself in the used Honda we'd bought her for her 16th birthday, and Jake caught the bus with his friends. By 7:30, the house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the air conditioning. I worked from home on Tuesdays, an arrangement I'd negotiated when we moved to Frisco. It saved me 90 minutes of commuting and gave me flexibility to handle household tasks or attend the kids' activities. Sarah sometimes worked from home too, though less frequently since her promotion to director. My home office was set up in what used to be a guest bedroom. A large desk facing the window, dual monitors, a comfortable ergonomic chair, and shelves lined with engineering textbooks and industry journals. I settled in with a fresh cup of coffee and opened my laptop to review the night's test results. The morning flew by. Conference calls with the testing team, email exchanges with our military liaisons, and a detailed review of signal propagation data that would inform our next phase of development. By noon, I was ready for a break. I went downstairs to make lunch, planning to eat quickly and get back to work. I had a presentation to prepare for Thursday's executive review, and I wanted to double-check all my calculations before submitting the report. That's when the doorbell rang. I glanced at the clock. 12:30 p.m. We weren't expecting any deliveries, and most of our neighbors knew I worked from home and wouldn't disturb me during business hours. I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. A young man in a uniform stood on our front porch, holding a large floral arrangement. Behind him, a delivery van idled in our driveway, its refrigerated unit humming. "Delivery for Sarah Castellano," he said, consulting his clipboard. "That's my wife. She's at work, but I can sign for them." The arrangement was stunning. 24 red roses interspersed with white lilies, professionally arranged in an elegant crystal vase. The kind of expensive display that cost at least $200, maybe more. My first thought was that Sarah's company was celebrating the successful product launch presentation. "Beautiful flowers," I said, accepting the clipboard. "Special occasion?" The delivery driver grinned. "Birthday flowers. The card says they're from a secret admirer." "Lucky lady." My pen froze halfway through signing my name. "Birthday flowers?" "Yeah, that's what it says on the order." "Happy birthday, Sarah." I finished signing, my mind racing. Sarah's birthday was April 8th. 2 months ago. We'd celebrated with dinner at her favorite restaurant, followed by a weekend getaway to Austin. These flowers weren't for her birthday. Thanks, I managed, taking the arrangement. The driver waved and returned to his van. I stood on the porch holding $200 worth of roses and lilies, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. Inside the house, I set the flowers on the kitchen island and looked for a card. There it was, tucked among the roses in a small white envelope with Sarah's name written in elegant script. I hesitated. Opening someone else's mail was a violation of privacy, something I'd never done in 18 years of marriage. But the delivery driver's words echoed in my mind. Birthday flowers from a secret admirer. I opened the envelope. The card was expensive stationery, cream-colored with a subtle floral border. The message was handwritten in black ink, masculine lettering that I didn't recognize. Happy birthday, baby. Can't wait to celebrate properly tonight. All my love, T. I read it 3 times, my engineering mind automatically cataloging the details. Male handwriting. Intimate tone. T, initial. Tonight, suggested a planned meeting. Trevor Nash. I set the card down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. 20 years of engineering training had taught me to approach problems systematically, gathering data before drawing conclusions. This was just another problem to solve. I took photos of the flowers, the card, and the delivery receipt with my phone, making sure to capture clear images of the handwriting and the timestamp on the receipt. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and called the florist. Paradise Flowers, this is Jenny. How can I help you? Hi, Jenny. I just received a delivery at 1247 Oak Ridge Drive, and I wanted to confirm the order details. Of course, let me pull that up. Order for Sarah Castellano, correct? That's right. 2 dozen red roses with white lilies, crystal vase, delivery requested for today. The order was placed yesterday by phone, paid for with a credit card ending in 47. Do you have the name on the credit card? I'm sorry, I can't release that information. Is there a problem with the delivery? No problem. Thank you. I hung up and stared at the flowers. Someone named T had ordered birthday flowers for my wife, using language that suggested an intimate relationship. The timing, meant to arrive while I was supposedly at work, indicated awareness of our household schedule. I opened my laptop and searched our company directory for Sarah's department. There he was, Trevor Nash, regional sales manager, hired 3 months ago. Divorced, according to his LinkedIn profile, with 2 children. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Presentation went great. Executives loved our strategy. Celebrating with the team tonight might be late. Don't wait up. I stared at the message, then looked at the flowers. Can't wait to celebrate properly tonight. I spent the afternoon conducting what I privately called due diligence. I checked our family phone plan online and downloaded 3 months of call and text records. Sarah's usage had spiked dramatically 6 weeks ago. Hundreds of calls and texts to a number that, when I reverse searched it, came back to Trevor Nash. 847 communications in 6 weeks. That was more than 20 per day. I called my attorney, Patricia Rodriguez, who'd handled our house purchase and will preparation. Mike, good to hear from you. How are Sarah and the kids? They're fine, Patricia. I need to ask you a hypothetical question about divorce law in Texas. There was a brief pause. Of course. What would you like to know? If someone were to discover evidence of adultery, how would that affect property division and custody arrangements? Texas is a community property state, but adultery can influence how the court divides assets. If someone can prove their spouse committed adultery, they might receive a disproportionate share of the community estate. It can also affect spousal support and sometimes custody, especially if the adultery negatively impacted the children. What kind of evidence would be sufficient? Phone records, emails, photographs, witness testimony. Text messages can be particularly compelling if they're explicitly romantic or sexual in nature. The key is establishing that an inappropriate relationship existed and that it damaged the marriage. Hypothetically, if someone gathered such evidence, how should they proceed? Document everything. Preserve original evidence. Don't confront the spouse until you've consulted with an attorney and developed a strategy. Emotional confrontations usually result in evidence being destroyed and positions becoming entrenched. I understand. Thank you, Patricia. Mike, is everything okay? I looked at the flowers, their beauty suddenly obscene. I'll call you back if I need to discuss this further. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a strange state of calm focus. I downloaded and printed the phone records, highlighting every communication with Trevor's number. I researched Texas divorce laws and property division statutes. I updated our financial records and made copies of important documents. The engineer in me approached it like any other project. Define the problem, gather data, analyze the variables, develop a solution. At 3:45, Amanda came home from summer school. Dad, those flowers are gorgeous. Did you surprise Mom? I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, the flower arrangement directly in my line of sight. Ask your mother about them when she gets home. Amanda gave me a curious look, but didn't press the issue. She grabbed a snack and headed upstairs to call her friends. Jake returned from baseball practice at 5:30, sweaty and happy. His team had won a scrimmage against their crosstown rivals, and he was full of stories about diving catches and clutch hits. I listened with half my attention while monitoring the clock. At 6:15, Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. I positioned myself in the living room where I could see the front door clearly. The flowers were prominently displayed on the kitchen island, impossible to miss. Sarah came through the garage door carrying her briefcase and a small overnight bag. "Hi, honey," she called. "Sorry I'm late. The celebration ran longer than I expected and I need to pack for Houston. Early flight tomorrow for client meetings." She appeared in the kitchen doorway and froze. "Oh, those are beautiful. Where did they come from?" I stood up slowly, my voice carefully neutral. "They were delivered this afternoon. For you." She approached the flowers hesitantly, her eyes searching for a card. "That's strange. I wasn't expecting anything." The delivery driver said they were birthday flowers. Sarah's face went pale. "Birthday flowers? But my birthday was April 8th, I finished. "I remember. We went to Romano's, and you had the sea base." She touched one of the roses with a trembling finger. "There must be some mistake. Maybe they were meant for someone else." I walked to the kitchen island and picked up the card, holding it out to her. "The card has your name on it." Sarah took the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it, read the contents, and I watched her face cycle through a range of emotions. Confusion, recognition, panic, and finally, resignation. "I can explain," she said quietly. "I'm listening." "It's not what you think. Trevor is just a colleague, a friend. He must have made a mistake about my birthday." I nodded thoughtfully. "Trevor Nash, right? Regional sales manager, hired 3 months ago?" Her eyes widened. "How do you know his last name?" The same way I know you've called or texted him 847 times in the past 6 weeks. The card slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. Mike, please let me explain. It's not what it looks like. What does it look like, Sarah? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her mind racing, trying to construct an explanation that would account for the evidence without admitting the truth. Trevor is going through a difficult divorce, she said finally. He's been leaning on me for emotional support. Sometimes he gets confused about personal details because he's under so much stress. Emotional support, I repeated. That explains 847 phone calls? We work closely together. The new product launch requires constant coordination. I picked up the card from the floor and read it aloud. Happy birthday, baby. Can't wait to celebrate properly tonight. All my love, T. That sounds like business coordination to you? Sarah's shoulders sagged. Mike. You know what's interesting? You told me this morning that you'd be late tonight because of a team celebration. Trevor's card says he can't wait to celebrate properly tonight. Quite a coincidence. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. Help me understand how your colleague sends you romantic birthday cards 2 months late and plans to celebrate with you tonight, but it's all perfectly innocent. Sarah sat down heavily at the kitchen table. For a long moment, she said nothing. Are you having an affair? I asked directly. No, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Are you planning to meet Trevor tonight? Another pause. We were going to grab dinner to discuss the Houston presentation. Just the two of you? Yes, but where? I don't see how that matters. I sat down across from her. Sarah, I've been married to you for 18 years. I know when you're lying. You've been different for months. Working late, weekend conferences, new perfume, new underwear. You've been distant from the kids and from me. And now I find out you're in constant communication with a male colleague who sends you romantic cards and wants to celebrate properly with you tonight. She stared at the table, her hands clenched in her fists. I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want a straight answer. Are you having an affair with Trevor Nash? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When she finally looked up, there were tears in her eyes. It's complicated, she whispered. No, it's not. It's yes or no. We haven't crossed certain lines. What lines have you crossed? We talk. We meet for coffee sometimes. She struggled for words. We care about each other. You love him. It wasn't a question. I don't know. Maybe. I'm confused, Mike. This wasn't supposed to happen. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, exactly. More like the satisfaction of solving a difficult engineering problem. Where were you planning to meet him tonight? The Marriott downtown. He has a room there for his client meetings tomorrow. His hotel room. We were going to talk. About us. About what happens next. What happens next? I repeated. You mean leaving me? I don't know what I want. That's why I needed to talk to him tonight. I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at the backyard where Jake had hit hundreds of practice balls, where Amanda had learned to ride her bike, where we'd hosted barbecues and birthday parties and graduation celebrations. Pack a bag, I said without turning around. Mike, please. Pack a bag and go to your sister's house. Take whatever you need for a few days. You're throwing me out? I turned to face her. You were planning to spend the night with another man. I'm just suggesting you do it somewhere other than our home. Mike, we need to talk about this. We can work through it. No, we can't. You've been lying to me for months. You've been emotionally absent from this family while you conduct your affair. You were planning to meet your lover in a hotel room tonight. There's nothing to work through. What about the children? I'll tell them you're staying at Carol's for a few days while we figure things out. When they ask why, I'll tell them the truth. Sarah's face crumpled. Please don't involve the kids in this. You involved them the moment you decided to have an affair. They've noticed your absence, Sarah. Amanda commented just this morning about how much you've been working. Jake's been asking me to drive him to practice because you're never available. You checked out of this family months ago. She stood up slowly, like an old woman. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. And now we deal with the consequences. She went upstairs to pack. I heard drawers opening and closing, the sound of hangers moving in the closet. 30 minutes later, she came down with a suitcase and her laptop bag. I'll call you tomorrow, she said. Call your lawyer instead. I'll be calling mine. She looked at me for a long moment, as if seeing me for the first time. I didn't know you could be this cold. I'm not cold, Sarah. I'm just not stupid. After she left, I sat in the quiet house and made a list. Not an emotional list, a practical one. Things that needed to be done, calls that needed to be made, evidence that needed to be preserved. When Amanda and Jake came downstairs for dinner, I had already started working. Where's Mom? Jake asked. She's staying at Aunt Carol's for a few days. Why? Amanda's voice was sharp with concern. I considered lying, creating some temporary fiction to protect them. But I'd built my relationship with my children on honesty and respect. They deserve the truth. Your mother has been having an affair with a man from her office. We're separating while we figure out what to do next. The words hung in the air like smoke. Amanda's face went through the same cycle of emotions I'd seen on Sarah's face earlier. Confusion, recognition, hurt, anger. That's not true, Jake said. Mom wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, son. I have proof. What kind of proof? Amanda demanded. I showed them the flowers and the card. I explained about the phone records and the planned hotel meeting. I watched my children absorb the reality that their family was broken. Why? Jake asked, his voice small. I don't know. People sometimes make choices that hurt the ones they love. Your mother made a choice and now we all have to live with the consequences. Are you getting divorced? Amanda's question was barely audible. Probably. But whatever happens between your mother and me, you need to know that you're the most important thing in my life. Both of you. We'll get through this together. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat in my office and planned my next moves. The engineer in me had taken over completely now. This was a problem to be solved, and I was good at solving problems. I made copies of all the evidence and stored them in multiple locations. I researched divorce attorneys and selected 3 for consultation. I reviewed our financial accounts and made sure I understood every asset and liability. But most importantly, I began to research Trevor Nash. If my wife was going to destroy our family for this man, I wanted to know exactly who he was. What I found was interesting. Trevor Nash wasn't divorced, as Sarah believed. He was separated, a crucial legal distinction. According to public records, he was still married to Linda Nash, and their divorce proceedings have been stalled for 8 months due to disputes over custody and property division. More interesting still, Trevor had lied on his employment application at Biopharma Solutions. He'd claimed to be divorced and had failed to disclose 2 bankruptcies and a civil judgment for unpaid child support. I spent 3 hours researching Trevor Nash, and by the time I went to bed, I had a clear picture of the man my wife was willing to destroy our family for. He was a liar, a deadbeat, and a fraud. But more than that, he was vulnerable. The next morning, I called Patricia Rodriguez and scheduled an emergency consultation. Then I called in sick to work, the first sick day I'd taken in 2 years, and drove to her office. I need to file for divorce, I told her, based on adultery. Patricia reviewed the evidence I'd collected: the flowers, the card, the phone records, the proof of the planned hotel meeting. "This is solid documentation," she said. "In Texas, this will significantly impact property division and potentially custody arrangements. I want everything I'm entitled to under the law." "Mike, I have to ask, are you certain you want to proceed? Sometimes couples can work through infidelity with counseling. My wife chose another man over our family. She's been lying to me for months and planning to leave. The only question now is whether I control the terms of our separation or let her dictate them." Patricia nodded. "I'll file the papers today. Given the evidence, I'm confident we can negotiate a favorable settlement." "There's something else. I have information about the man she's involved with. Information that might be useful." I handed her the research I'd compiled on Trevor Nash. "He's still married, not divorced as my wife believes. He's lied on corporate documents and has a history of financial irresponsibility. His wife doesn't know about the affair." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Trevor's wife deserves to know what her husband is doing. And I'm thinking Biopharma Solutions might be interested to learn that one of their regional managers lied on his employment application and is conducting an affair with a subordinate. Mike, be careful. You don't want to do anything that could be seen as vindictive or that could backfire in the divorce proceedings." "I'm not being vindictive. I'm being thorough. Trevor Nash inserted himself into my family and destroyed my marriage. It's only fair that he experiences some consequences for his actions." That afternoon, I called Linda Nash. "Mrs. Nash, my name is Mike Castellano. I have some information about your husband that I think you should know." The conversation was difficult but necessary. Linda Nash deserved to know that her estranged husband was conducting an affair with a coworker and lying about his marital status. I sent her copies of the evidence I'd collected and the contact information for my attorney, in case she wanted to coordinate our legal strategies. Linda was hurt but not surprised. Apparently, Trevor had a history of infidelity and financial deception. She thanked me for the information and promised to share it with her divorce attorney. Next, I contacted the Human Resources Department at Biopharma Solutions. "I'd like to report a potential ethics violation involving 2 of your employees." The HR director, Janet Morrison, was professional and thorough. I explained the situation without editorial comment, that Trevor Nash had lied about his marital status on employment documents and was conducting an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. I provided documentation supporting both claims. "We take these matters very seriously," Janet assured me. "I'll initiate an investigation immediately." "I appreciate that. I'm not seeking to damage anyone's career unnecessarily, but my wife is a director at your company, and I want to ensure that her professional judgment hasn't been compromised by this relationship." By Thursday, the dominoes were falling. Trevor Nash was terminated from Biopharma Solutions for falsifying employment documents and violating the company's ethics policy regarding relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Sarah was placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Linda Nash filed an emergency motion in her divorce proceedings, citing the evidence of Trevor's affair and demanding immediate spousal support and full custody of their children. And I filed for divorce based on adultery, seeking primary custody of Amanda and Jake and a disproportionate share of our marital assets. Sarah called me Thursday evening, hysterical. "Mike, what have you done? Trevor's been fired. I'm suspended. Linda Nash is claiming he lied about being divorced." Trevor did lie about being divorced. I have the public records to prove it. You destroyed his career. Trevor destroyed his own career when he decided to lie on his employment application and conduct an affair with a subordinate. I simply provided accurate information to the appropriate parties. You're ruining my life. I'm protecting my family's interests. You made your choice, Sarah. Now you get to live with the consequences. The kids hate me. Amanda won't even talk to me. The kids are hurt and confused. You'll need to work to rebuild their trust. How can I do that if you're poisoning them against me? I've told them the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. If the truth makes you look bad, that's not my fault. Friday morning, I was back at work, leading the executive review of our satellite communication protocols. The presentation went smoothly, and my manager complimented my thorough preparation and clear analysis. "You seem focused lately," he observed. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." I smiled thinly. Just applying engineering principles to all areas of my life. That evening, Amanda and Jake came home from their first supervised visit with Sarah at Carol's house. "How was it?" I asked. "Weird," Jake said. "Mom kept crying and saying she was sorry." "She says Trevor lied to her," Amanda added. "She says she didn't know he was still married." "Do you believe her?" Amanda considered this carefully. "I think she's telling the truth about that part. But she still chose to have an affair. She still lied to us." I was proud of my daughter's clear thinking. At 16, she was already developing the kind of analytical skills that would serve her well in life. "What happens now?" Jake asked. "Now we focus on our family. Your mother and I will work out the legal details, but you two are my priority. We're going to be fine." Over the next 2 months, the divorce proceedings moved forward with devastating efficiency. Sarah's attorney tried to claim emotional abuse and temporary insanity, but the evidence was overwhelming. She had conducted a systematic affair over several months, lied to her family, and planned to abandon her marriage for a man who had lied to her about his marital status. The court awarded me primary custody of both children, with Sarah receiving supervised visitation every other weekend. I kept the house and 70% of our marital assets. Sarah was ordered to pay child support and my legal fees. Trevor Nash disappeared completely. After losing his job and facing criminal charges for falsifying corporate documents, he moved out of state. Linda Nash was awarded full custody of their children and substantial spousal support. Sarah found a job as a marketing coordinator at a smaller firm, a significant step down from her director position. She rented a one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away and began the slow process of trying to rebuild her relationship with Amanda and Jake. But the most significant change was in me. I'd spent 18 years being a trusting husband, believing that love and commitment were enough to protect a marriage. I'd learned that some people will destroy everything good in their lives for the excitement of deception and betrayal. But I'd also learned that I was stronger than I'd realized. When my world collapsed, I didn't fall apart. I analyzed the problem, gathered the data, and implemented a solution. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I met Lisa Martinez at Amanda's parent-teacher conference. She was a counselor at the high school, helping students navigate the emotional challenges of adolescence. She was kind, intelligent, and refreshingly direct. "Your daughter speaks about you with tremendous respect," she told me. "She says you handled your divorce with grace and protected your children through a difficult time." I tried to do what was right for them. That's not always easy when you're dealing with your own pain. We began dating slowly, building a relationship on honesty and shared values. Lisa had been through her own divorce 5 years earlier and understood the complexities of blended families and second chances. Amanda and Jake liked her immediately. She didn't try to replace their mother, but offered them additional support and stability during a turbulent time in their lives. 2 years after my divorce, Amanda graduated high school with honors and received a full scholarship to study engineering at Texas A&M. "I want to be like you, Dad," she told me at her graduation party. "I want to solve problems and build things that matter." Jake was thriving too. He'd made the varsity baseball team as a sophomore and was being scouted by college recruiters. More importantly, he'd grown into a confident, respectful young man who knew he could count on his father. Sarah attended Amanda's graduation, sitting in the back with her sister. She looked older, worn down by the consequences of her choices. She'd tried to rebuild her relationship with the children, but the damage ran deep. They were polite but distant, protective of the family stability I'd worked so hard to create. After the ceremony, she approached me. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For taking care of them, for being the parent they needed when I failed them." I nodded. "They're good kids. They deserved better than what happened." I know I can't undo the damage I caused. But I want you to know that I'm grateful they had you to depend on." It was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever heard from her. 3 years after the divorce, Lisa and I were married in a small ceremony attended by our families and closest friends. Amanda gave a speech about second chances and the importance of building relationships on truth and trust. Jake walked Lisa down the aisle, symbolically welcoming her into our family. The wedding was everything my first wedding hadn't been: genuine, joyful, and built on a foundation of real understanding between two people who'd both learned hard lessons about love and commitment. 5 years after that Tuesday afternoon when a flower delivery changed everything, I stood in the audience at Amanda's engineering school graduation. She was valedictorian of her class, accepted to graduate school at MIT, and already being recruited by aerospace companies. In her graduation speech, she talked about the importance of systematic thinking and ethical decision-making. "My father taught me that problems can be solved if you approach them methodically and always tell the truth," she said. "He showed me that integrity isn't just about doing the right thing when it's easy. It's about doing the right thing when everything is falling apart around you." Jake had just finished his junior year of high school and was being recruited by Division I baseball programs. More importantly, he'd grown into a young man of character and strength, someone who understood that actions have consequences and that family loyalty is earned through consistent behavior. Sarah had largely faded from our lives. She attended major events and maintained minimal contact with the children, but she'd never successfully rebuilt the trust she'd destroyed. The children were cordial but guarded, protecting themselves from further disappointment. Trevor Nash had never recovered from the professional and personal destruction that followed his affair. According to Linda Nash, who stayed in touch occasionally, he'd moved to another state and was working in construction, having been blacklisted from the pharmaceutical industry. His lies and betrayals had cost him his career, his family, and his reputation. As I watched Amanda accept her diploma, I reflected on the strange turns life can take. A flower delivery meant for my cheating wife had revealed the truth about my marriage and forced me to rebuild my life from the ground up. But in doing so, I'd discovered reserves of strength I didn't know I possessed. I'd learned that systematic thinking and unwavering integrity could overcome even the most devastating betrayals. Most importantly, I'd shown my children that no matter how badly people disappoint you, it's possible to build something better from the ruins. The flowers that destroyed my marriage had, in the end, helped me create a stronger family. That Tuesday afternoon in June had seemed like the end of everything I'd worked for. Instead, it was the beginning of the life I was meant to live. As we left the graduation ceremony, Lisa took my hand and Amanda fell into step beside us. Jake jogged over from where he'd been talking with friends, and suddenly we were walking together as a family. Not the family I'd planned for 20 years ago, but the family we'd built through honesty, commitment, and mutual respect. "Proud of you, Dad," Amanda said quietly. "Proud of you too, sweetheart." "What's next?" Jake asked. I looked at my daughter, who'd built her life on the foundation of strength and integrity I'd tried to model for her. I looked at my son, who'd learned that real men protect the people they love. I looked at my wife, who'd chosen to build a life with us based on truth and genuine partnership. "Next," I said, "we keep building something worth protecting." Behind us, the engineering school rose against the Texas sky, its clean lines and purposeful design reflecting the systematic thinking that had guided my family through our darkest times and into a future built on solid ground. The betrayal that had once seemed like the end of everything had become the foundation for something better. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the thing that saves you. And sometimes a flower delivery on a Tuesday afternoon can change your life in ways you never imagined possible. 10 years later, I'm 54 now, and Lisa and I have been married for 7 years. Amanda is a senior engineer at NASA, working on the next generation of satellite communication systems, the same field I've spent my career developing. She's married to a fellow engineer named David, and they have a 2-year-old daughter who calls me Grandpa Mike. Jake finished college on a baseball scholarship and now teaches high school mathematics while coaching the varsity team. He's engaged to a wonderful young woman named Rachel, a teacher who shares his passion for working with kids. Sarah remarried 2 years ago to a man she met at church. Someone who was willing to accept her past mistakes and help her build a more honest life. She's a grandmother now, too, though her relationship with Amanda and Jake remains cordial but distant. Some trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. Trevor Nash contacted me last year through LinkedIn, of all things. He wanted to apologize for his role in destroying my marriage and thank me for opening his eyes to the consequences of his behavior. He's remarried as well, and claims to have found religion and personal accountability. I never responded to his message. Some apologies come too late to matter. But here's what I've learned in the years since that flower delivery changed my life. Betrayal reveals character, both in the person who betrays and in the person who's betrayed. Sarah's affair showed me that she was capable of deception and selfishness I'd never imagined. But it also showed me that I was capable of strength and strategic thinking I'd never been forced to use. Children are more resilient than we think, but they remember everything. Amanda and Jake watched how I handled the crisis, and it shaped their understanding of integrity, accountability, and what it means to protect the people you love. Truth is a powerful tool, but it must be wielded carefully. I could have destroyed Sarah's career and reputation completely, But I limited my actions to protecting my family and ensuring that the people responsible for the betrayal faced appropriate consequences. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the thing that allows you to build the life you were really meant to live. My first marriage was built on assumption and comfort. My second marriage is built on choice and consciousness. Two people who've seen the worst that life can offer and decided to build something better together. Every year on the anniversary of that flower delivery, I take Amanda and Jake out to dinner. We don't talk about the divorce or the pain it caused. Instead, we talk about the future we're building and the lessons we've learned about integrity, resilience, and the importance of facing the truth no matter how much it hurts. Last year, Amanda asked me if I ever regretted how I handled the situation. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd just confronted Mom quietly and tried to work things out? I considered the question carefully. Your mother had been lying to me for months and was planning to leave our family for a man who was lying to her. There was no relationship left to save by the time I discovered the truth. But you could have tried counseling or separation instead of divorce? I could have. But that would have meant accepting that deception and betrayal were acceptable behaviors in our family. It would have taught you and Jake that actions don't have real consequences. I wasn't willing to do that. Jake nodded thoughtfully. You showed us that trust is earned and that people have to be accountable for their choices. Exactly. I'm not proud that your mother chose to have an affair, but I am proud of how we handled it as a family. Amanda smiled. We learned to solve problems instead of hiding from them. That's the most important lesson I could teach you. As we left the restaurant that night, I thought about the strange journey that had brought us to this point. A flower delivery meant for another man had exposed the lies that were destroying our family. But in forcing us to confront the truth, it had also given us the opportunity to build something stronger and more honest. The birthday flowers that ended my first marriage had become the foundation for a better life. Not just for me, but for my children and the family we'd built together through choice, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the truth. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the greatest gift, if you have the courage to face it honestly and the strength to build something better from the ruins. That's the lesson I learned on a Tuesday afternoon in June, when a flower delivery changed everything and taught me that real strength isn't about avoiding problems. It's about solving them with integrity, intelligence, and unwavering commitment to protecting the people you love. And in the end, that's exactly what I did.